We could all stand and say Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank everyone for coming tonight. We have our newest board member with us, Colette Sorgel, and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll start in with our administrator's report on agenda posting and notification of meeting to the media.
Okay, the agendas were posted at Three Lakes School, Sugar Camp School in the town of Sugar Camp, the town of Three Lakes, the town of Monaco, and the media notified included the Vilas County News, the Northwoods River News, WRJO News, WXPR Radio, and WACD, WATK Radio.
All right, very good. Moving on to amendments and approval agenda. Any amendments at all? None? Okay. I'll seek a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Terry, second by Stacy. Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Motion carried 5-0. Moving on to approving minutes of the June 16th, 2021 regular meeting and July 14th, 2021 special meeting.
I make a motion to approve both the 16 June report and the 14 July special meeting report.
I second.
Okay, motion by Terry, second by Josh. Any other questions, considerations? Hearing none, I'll call to vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Motion carried 5-0. Moving on to approving vouchers/check register for the period of June 11th, 2021 through July 16th, 2021.
I'll make the motion to approve checks dated 6/11/21 through 7/16/21 for accounts payable. ACH checks number 2021-00181 through 2021-00207. Regular checks number 124988 through 125125, and manual checks number 5187 through 5206 in the amount of $725,810.21, and ACH payroll checks number 900035576 through number 900035812, and regular payroll checks number 59137 through 59148, and manual checks number 1527 and 1557 in the amount of $315,223.76, for a total amount of $1,041,033.97.
All right, we have a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Terry, second by Stacy. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Motion carried 5-0. Number 7. Hear comments from visitors on our agenda items tonight. Would anyone like to speak? Ann?
On G and K, should I do that right now?
That would be
Okay,
wonderful.
I'm just asking for some clarification. On the G for the approval of the updates for the handbook, I'd appreciate it if, when you're talking about the changes, that you give us some idea of the content rather than a reference to a page number and an item, so we have some idea of what it's about, since we don't see those documents. And then under the parcel, a bit of clarification. In the last week or two, there was an article in the Vilas News about a wildlife organization, and it talked about the board considering trading a parcel or buying a new parcel for the trap range. And it wasn't clear whether they were talking about the school board or their board. And so I guess I would like to have some clarification. The only reason I thought it might be school board is when they talked about trading a parcel. It seemed that they didn't have a parcel to trade, so I just wondered what that was about.
And you said this was in the news review?
It was in the Vilas News, it was maybe 2 weeks ago now. An article about, I can't remember the name of the Wildlife Association.
Okay.
I think Chris Blickerts is part of that.
Fish and
Three
Wildlife.
Lakes Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, so Chris might have more information on that. Okay, all right. Okay, anyone else wish to make a comment tonight? All right, thank you. Moving on to new business, starting off with election of officers. And we do have an assignment, a WASB assignment. And this is because of a resignation by a board member, and we just recently filled it last week. So we do have the vice presidency office open currently. And Terry?
I would be interested in being appointed as the vice president,
Okay,
and I would give up my treasurer's job.
okay. Well, I will take nominations for that position.
I'd be willing to nominate Terry as the vice president.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. All right, so we have a motion for Terry McCluskey as our vice president. Motion by Josh, second by Stacy. I can take that to a vote. All those in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None heard? There we go. So we have a vice president, and congratulations on that, Terry.
Thank you.
Now, that's the reason why we have the S there. Should this happen, we now have to fill the treasurer. Do we have a nomination for treasurer? I'll make a motion for Josh. I think he's got some experience in the field.
And I'll second that.
Okay. All right, so we'll take this one to a vote. So this here is, the motion is for Josh Krell for treasurer, and I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none heard. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you.
And maybe Terry can help you out with, I guess, some of the information of that position. And
Yeah, we could do that.
that'd be great. We also have an assignment, which isn't something that we need to vote on, but if someone is willing to be our WASB delegate, this is at the convention down in January down in Milwaukee. And so it basically takes up part of one's day during the convention.
Wednesday afternoon.
And so it's a chance to represent our school in the voting process. So any volunteers on that?
And everybody should know I'm already there
Yeah.
because of the WASB second district thing, so I'm attending.
So do we need a second person then?
It helps. We get a stroll.
Well, yeah, I'm sort of over here and everybody else is over here, so.
Yeah, he's actually representing
So we get 2 votes,
The region.
yeah. So we
What
get 2
day did you
votes.
say it was?
Well, the convention will go from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning
It's
of
usually-
the 3rd week in January.
Yeah.
So we could look at the calendar for January, and then I assume that our district administrator is going to take care of all the details.
Yep. Well, they have not been officially released yet. That's why you haven't
Oh,
gotten
okay.
anything.
All right.
Carrie and I are watching it. We can reserve blocks of rooms after the 18th of August. And the official programming, I think, is out in the second week of September, was the last I read.
So it will be an afternoon of a Wednesday.
It would be all day.
Well, the convention lasts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the voting thing takes all of Wednesday afternoon.
Mhm.
So I think, Colette, I think it would be Wednesday, January 19th. In fact, I'm sure it is.
I would be in Milwaukee either the 12th or the 19th anyway for something else. So if I can confirm that and you're willing to let a newbie go, I would most likely be able to switch the dates so it's the same day.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of fun to see, democracy in action, so to speak, and you get your little cards,
Okay.
hold them up in the air and press buttons, and it's all sort of interesting.
I will confirm, but I will tentatively say I have a 90% chance that I can do it.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a chance to vote on matters that come up to eventually state legislature to
And we'll
consider.
talk about those matters so we are versed and we agree, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, there's a separate group that does that, policy group for WASB, and they meet twice, and then they refine and add to and get rid of those proposals. Usually they'll go forth with, what is it, Mike, somewhere between like 16 and 20 of them will gain traction, and I've actually been talking to Terry, not too much, but a little bit about the consideration that we might want to put one forward ourselves. It's good publicity for the school, but it's got to be something that makes some sense, too.
Okay.
Yeah, and historically, it's been an assignment that somebody takes for a year or two, and then it gets passed on to somebody else. So eventually, everybody gets a chance. So does anybody else have any strong interest in doing it? Okay, everybody's good. All right, so Colette, if you're willing.
Yeah, I'll send some emails and maybe by the end of the meeting, I'll be able to say yes for sure.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I think we got everything covered there?
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to B, Butch and Jean Fitzpatrick, Human Trafficking Awareness. So Butch and Jean, you have a presentation?
Should I come forward, Mike, or?
That would be great. Yep.
Okay, I'll wait. Don't have people behind me. Well, thanks for putting us on the agenda this evening, and I know most of you, but it's a good opportunity to meet some folks that Jean and I do not know. Appreciate the intro. And I retired as a district ranger from the Forest Service on the Nicolay National Forest. Jean works in the fitness center as a supervisor, and I substitute teach as well. But more importantly, we are co-regional coordinators against human sex trafficking within the upper Midwest. So what that involves is providing prevention and awareness to schools, churches, civic organizations, or whatever. We're trained to provide these type of opportunities, and we've presented to 6 different schools so far in the Northwoods. And our purpose for tonight is just to make sure that you're aware that we're available this coming school year. COVID was weird last year, right? But we're available to present to not only students, but the staff and teachers as well as anybody else, the students' parents as well, as far as recognizing what is happening here. We're not isolated. There's no community isolated from human sex trafficking. Every county in Wisconsin has had documented sex trafficking occur. 2017, there were 17 arrests in a single sting operation in Eagle River. So unfortunately, it's here. And what Jean and I do is help bring up the awareness of what it looks like. Now, we presented in Mrs. Morrow's class as part of the social issues, and we presented in Northland Pines as part of health. And we can approach things, we're pretty flexible as far as how we do things or what the needs are. But we want to make sure you understand that we're here to help parents, teachers, and students understand what's out there. And we use a 20-minute video called Chosen, which is appropriate down to age 12. It's not sexually explicit. It is not sex education. It doesn't focus in on the horrors of what trafficking looks like. It's a parent and student-friendly film. And that takes about 20 minutes. And they did, Shared Hope is the organization that we volunteer for. They trained us, as well as Department of Justice. I've been through training with them in Wisconsin to help turn the tide on this stuff. So we're offering up to the school district to re-engage this year. Now that COVID is behind us, right? It's behind us. But what we've done in the past too is set up a stand at parent and teacher conferences. And that's had mixed success, but at least we're there. And people can come over and see the material that's available. Now, Jean has packages of information. It's summertime, and I know you have a lot on the agenda, so there's information in there with examples of some of the things that we have available for parents as well as staff. I'd like to highlight a couple things that are in there. There's a letter to parents as an example about what the film is like that we use during our presentations. So it kind of dispel some of the fear that might be out there when a parent hears, oh, they're doing a presentation in one of our classes on human sex trafficking. What's that about? And there's a couple other pieces of information in there that the school can use about the film that we use. And there's an assortment of other things available. Basically, what we do is try to equip students to help themselves and help their friends, and dispel the myth that it's not here. That's a myth. The myth of what a victim or what a buyer or a trafficker looks like, because we all have stereotypes on what we think those people look like. The myth that someone chooses to be in that lifestyle. The sad fact is, statistically, somebody that's lured in has a 7-year life expectancy after being lured in. So that means with the average age of being lured in of 13 to 15, by the time normally somebody, a student's ready to enter college, they're no longer on the face of this planet. And Jean and I are here to turn that around. That is not acceptable to us as parents and citizens, and we want to do something about that. So we want to help the school district. And we talk about the lies, the tactics, the brainwashing that goes on with kids, and we just help them better understand what it is out there, not from a fear perspective, but from a knowledge. And I brought a couple examples of the poster boards that we have during our presentations. You're welcome to look at those afterwards. One dispels the myth that it's not here. We hear about human trafficking happening in exotic places in the world. It's here, unfortunately. And the other one is one I made up on school safety and what staff and parents and students can do to help this be a better, safer place. So I open it up to questions. One other thing that I did want to mention, 2 years ago, before COVID, I did up a 3-ring binder that talks about internet safety, and we put it in the teacher's lounge so that if they have some time, they can thumb through it, and it gives a lot of good information how to protect our kids, and I call them kids, right? They're older, but how our kids can be safer using the internet. One, I could use a lot of statistics, but I'll move right on here. One of the sad things when students are not in school, when they're in an unsupervised setting, are you ready for this? Last year, the demand for online pornography rose 4,700%. Now that sends shivers up my spine every time I say that. And that's because the bad guys know our kids are online in an unsupervised setting, and a lot of times they don't have filters that help prevent that stuff. And Gina and I talk about filters and programs that the school as well as parents can use. So with that, Mike, I appreciate you giving us time. Feel free to give us a call anytime if you have any questions about the material that we passed out. And we're here because we're citizens of this community, and we feel good about Three Lakes School District. So Jean, did you want to add anything?
Well, I wanted to add that we donated a couple books to the library, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, that goes into the elementary level. And also that we don't charge for coming, and the materials that we give out, we don't charge because our organization provides them for, public use. And so we come free of charge. And so we just hope to get a conversation among the kids so that they know when those red flags pop up. And sometimes it's the kids that will recognize when one of their friends is in trouble before the parents or anybody else. And of course, our time doesn't let us go into any examples of that, but a very good example of that happened in Marathon County, I should say. In Marathon County that we heard about, that would just make your hair stand on end.
This
So-
last year, while substitute teaching, I saw a couple of signs for concern, and I shared those with the principal as well as the school counselor. So some action was taken on that to help determine whether or not we did have an issue that needed to be addressed. So I want to put in one plug. In the package, there's a card that says Take Action, and on it, and I have a couple extra of these, is a 888 number that sometimes we might see something that we're not quite sure, we want to call 911 or the police. But what this is, it's a human trafficking hotline number. It's staffed 24/7. You don't even have to identify who you are, but you can talk to them and let them know what you're seeing, and they can take it from there. So it's a good idea when we talk to the students and the teachers, we ask them to program that right into their cell phone so they always have it. And like I said, you can remain anonymous. Who knows, you might save a life.
Yeah.
Any questions or?
Just a word of thanks that you have the care of helping us keep our kids safe. I know you've done some presentations in the past, and we'll look for more opportunities.
Okay.
So that, because every year we've got new students coming through that just need to be aware of some of the signals and things to look for, so.
We fit it into one class before. What works better is if we have two 2 classes so we can follow up with the students, but we can do it in one.
Yeah.
And there's a whole curriculum out there available. All parochial schools, all 24 in Wisconsin, have anti-human trafficking as part of their 8th grade curriculum, and it's a regular curriculum. But we're available with whatever the school district or board or principal would like us to do. So take advantage of us, eh?
Very good. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank
coming
you.
tonight.
Nice
Thank
seeing you
you.
again.
Thanks.
Yes. All right. Too bad we have these issues, right? Okay, so, moving on to our August meeting dates, and as Butch also mentioned, we do have our new principal here too, so we should probably mention him, because we'll probably see him at a lot of meetings, right?
Yes, we will. Justin, would you stand up for a sec? I just asked Mike, we'd like to introduce all of you here to Justin Zeus. He is our new 712 principal. You may know him in many other realms of the community. He's kind of a transplant for 20-some years, so
Yeah.
but he still says he's not a born and bred, though he is. Yeah, I think if you would count seat time on benches and bleachers watching kids in sports, that would qualify him. So I asked him to join us this evening, and just a real pleasure to be working with you the first few weeks, Justin, and I thank you for joining our staff and our district, and we really look forward to great things. And if you want to say anything, now's your moment.
All I want to say is thank you for the opportunity, all of you, for giving me the chance to be a leader here in the schools, and I'm really excited to work where I live. I feel like my experiences, some of the things that I've seen that work and some of the things I've seen that don't work, I think I can help parlay that into some, moving us forward in a positive way, and I'm really excited about it and humbled by the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Excellent.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Anxious to get going.
Look forward to working with you, and we'll
Thanks.
see you at plenty of other meetings, right?
Oh, yeah. You probably get sick of me.
So what do we have?
Okay, we have our board meetings that are coming up. August 9th is our board administrative staff retreat, and that's planned for 12 noon on August 9th, which is a Monday. And we will have some light lunch, sandwich fixings and all prior to that, and we will get started. We will be meeting, my administrative staff and I will be meeting prior to that to kind of shake out some more ideas and have a little bit more direction for you. We have a really good plan that's been followed in the past, and now that we, like has been said tonight, we can step away from COVID a little bit more and get back into where we really want to focus our goals this next year, so that's what we'll be preparing for. And then our regular board meeting is August 18th at 6 o'clock.
All right. Okay. So we'll be meeting twice here in August, and the planning meeting is always something that I especially look forward to, so, and so it'll be good.
How long does it normally last?
Couple days.
The
Planning
rest of your
days,
life.
so.
I just want to block out the time.
Usually, we're done around 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish, so.
Thank you.
Somewhere around there, yeah. All right, very good. Anything else on that, Terry?
Nope, that would be it.
Okay. Next, we have identify/approve academic standards for 2021 through 2022.
This is something that we do every year. It is a requirement by the state that we go ahead and make sure our standards are announced, and we have stayed with the Wisconsin academic standards for many years in the Three Lakes District, as well as most of the districts in the area. I didn't print them all out because unless you're a real instruction and curriculum person, you can go online and get it, but these are constantly being reviewed and updated. They're in a cycle, like there's over 200 pages in the math, and then the ELA. So I've got copies here if you'd ever want to take them and have hard copies, you certainly can, or they are online, as I've said. I just want to assure you that the cycle and the rotation is continual. That's something that I'm very well abreast of all the time. We keep up with this. It's not like it's just sprung on us. For instance, when we've been working now on social studies, and I say we lightly, I mean it's the state works on it, brings it to us. There's a period of comment, review. It comes out. It's a couple of year process, so it's a lot of time and thought is taken. And the reason standards are so beneficial, and I really appreciate the state of Wisconsin, is a standard is a very broad range of what you're covering. They don't tell you, you have to teach this. What it is in your education, this is what should be covered, this is what the students are learning about, are being exposed to. You're helping them beyond a piece of information, you're developing them as thinkers. And I've been in another state, and I can tell you this is a true wonderful component of Wisconsin education, how it is done by standards. And always remember, we maintain local control. And I just feel a need to say that more than ever because we do maintain local control. So please, if you hear things that seem a little bit like, oh, what's coming our way, remember, we're still in charge of our ship here, and I take a lot of pride in that, and we will make sure that's how we continue business. So what I need from you, so we can go ahead and put out our publishing on the website and the information out there, is a motion to approve the academic standards for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
And we're using the title of,
Wisconsin Academic Standards.
there we go.
I make a motion to approve the Wisconsin academic standards for the school year of 2021 to 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Colette, second by Josh. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I will call to a vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None heard, motion passes 5-0. All right, very good. We're moving on to consider approval of milk bids or bid for 2021 through 2022.
Yes, and this is something that we do yearly as well. In the northern part of the state, we only have one distributor, so it's a milk bid. And we've seen this year roughly a 5.6% increase on average over last year in milk prices. So the prices will be, and this is in cents, $0.2735 for a half pint of dairy pure 1% low fat, easy for me to say. $0.2668 for a half pint dairy pure skim fat free, and $0.28 for a half a pint of chocolate fat free, and 29 cents for a half a pint of chocolate 1%, and 29.5 for a half pint of strawberry fat free. And this is the invoice that we are going with. We compare the average of the numbers, what we bought the last few years, and come to what we have to make for the bid. And Carrie has the full information. If you have anything real specific about this, she could give you the more detailed report.
Okay, so these are fixed for the year?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And if that is acceptable, I'd be looking for a motion, or I'd be asking you to look for a motion
Okay.
to accept that.
I'll make a motion to approve the milk bid as presented.
Second.
Okay, so we do have a motion by Stacy, second by Terry. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll call to vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None heard, motion passes 5-0. All right, and we can now move to consider approval of the 2021 through 2022 Three Lakes School District Employee Handbook.
All right, the handbook is going to reflect some updates. The administrative team and I went through the handbook together, and we spent quite a lengthy time discussing through any perceived changes or thoughts that we needed to make a change. A lot of our discussion really focused around how we go ahead and share the information and clarify it at the same level, whether we're in an elementary school or Sugar Camp or Three Lakes. So that is kind of where this comes from, and then updating dates and such. So what I had done for you is I had outlined the pages for you where there was actually a change in the language. And we can talk through that, and then if there's other changes you would like to make as well, we can talk about that too. We do have some hard copies here, okay? With a highlighted with this, what's changed, and then this
Anybody
has
here?
no highlights. So,
Good.
if you want them, you can take a look at that. Okay. So starting off, on page 5, in the second paragraph, it talks about our contracted days. This isn't a change other than what we're doing is, well, it is a change from last year to this year, but it's signifying what those days are for. And there's 187 contracted days, 172 of which are teacher-student contact days, 10 professional days, 1.5 flex work days, 2 parent-teacher conference days, a half a day for open house, and 1 day that's also considered a CPR training day or a flexible staff day. Is there any questions on the significance of those days? Okay. Then, on page 6B. This is a change. We removed the prior absence language, which cited calling the district secretary by 6:30 in the morning. We purchased the school substitute calling system last year and didn't really get to use it with, again, COVID and where we were at. But we will be training on that during in-service and relying on this system. It's going to be very handy because not only is it nice for emergency, but it's also set up that you can put in your favorite substitute teachers, and by favorite I mean the ones that do well in your class and have an understanding and know your children. Your Fab Five is what I like to call them, and you can set things up in advance. It will also prevent our secretaries and possibly our principals, which did happen often, getting that 5:30 a.m. call. You know, it can process things in a timely manner, and so we're going to be putting quite a bit of time into sharing that training, and we'll report that back out to you after in-service days. So that's the change in the language there. Any questions on that?
So the substitute calling system is like a software or
It
something?
is. It is a software.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Understood.
And page 21. ICB. This had old language about staff evaluation. We participate in the CISA 6 effectiveness project model, so wanted to update the language to reflect what it is called and what we are doing. Not a change, just a clarification of what the actual title is. Any questions on that? Okay. Then 34. I know I missed one, Josh. Will you please remind me when we come back?
Sure will.
On page 34, Appendix A, looking at the increments of personal time. I think I'm looking at the right one here. Where did I miss calendar? No, talking about calendar, I apologize. So on page 34, the calendar, we talked a lot about the word collaborate, and I know it seems like a fine point to discuss, but by nature of what we're required to do by the state guidelines and the negotiation of the calendar really has a lot of restrictions on it. So even though we work together with the staff, we wanted to change collaborate to say consult and provide feedback, because it's a give and take back and forth, even though it's not a lot of us being able to personally select and make it unique. And Bobby Pulver from the association and I talked about that, following up on the discussion that we had as the administrative team, and we were all in agreement that that's just more reflective of what we are actually doing. When we use the word collaborate, we want you to know we're truly collaborating on creating something in education.
Okay.
And then on page 36-4, this is looking at the personal time language. Increments of personal time, staff have personal days each year. We are going to move to charging a personal day by a half day or a full day, instead of the bookkeeping nightmare of if you try to do it by like points, like a 30-minute period or an hour here or an hour there, simply because when we have personal time taken, we have to be able to pay for a substitute teacher, and they need to mesh. So the association agreed with the administrators that we can figure it out to make it work by half day or full day. We still have the opportunity, if a staff member needs to be gone for a shorter period of time, that they work it out within the building through their principal, or they've got sick time that they, if it's an appointment or something, we do work very closely together with that. So that was a change we talked about the 2 years I've been here, and we actually made it happen this year. And then on page 39, Appendix B. Again, we did a couple of different things that we talked about here. Clarified the language that we are in the CISA 6 effectiveness project model. It's kind of a repeat of the other one. Under loads and hours, we wanted to clarify staff leaving the building. Oh, did I miss one yet? The IEP? In A, we removed that word IAP, which was an old word for IAPs and IEPs. We only do what are called individual education plans, so it's just showing the education plan now. That is what we do. We didn't actually, as administrators, know what an IAP even was anymore, so that had to leave. We changed in B, teachers and staff to include both. If leaving the building, we want staff to sign out. They are supposed to be in the building during contracted time. People understand that and honor that. If they need to leave for an appointment, the expectation is that a sign out is made after notification to the principal, and that way we have ourselves covered for, number one, knowing where a staff member is, that liability purpose, and the safety purpose. For instance, if we went into a lockdown and somebody, we didn't know where they were, we want to make sure we know where everybody is and accounted for. And in talking with the association, we all agreed that we just had to shore this up so we had the same common language and practice in both buildings at all levels.
So going back to A, teachers will be required to attend IEP meetings as needed, or is
Correct.
it and meetings as needed?
As needed. As needed. They're not needed all the time. You can have a whole year and not have an IEP meeting.
Okay.
Most of them are scheduled during the day,
Okay.
and they are scheduled during a prep time that a teacher could attend. Occasionally, they're after school. We have to give the parents the opportunity to set when they can be available too. But this was in discussing it with Bobby Pulver, a revision from some old language when there was a time many years ago that there was a lot of IEPs before school or after school, and it was extending days very much beyond the contracted time. And that has since been worked out with the
Okay.
parent accommodations, first and foremost in mind.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And, let's see, I think that's teacher's end of day on F. Again, it might seem like we're being nitpicky. On a holiday or a Friday, we're talking about the teacher's day shall end after the students have fully departed and after the buses have left the grounds. And, you know, we were just kind of being silly and saying we don't want to see our staff leaving before the kids leave. And that's not a common practice or a practice at all by any means, but we just felt we wanted to make sure that we clarified that so it didn't appear that we were leaving when children were present.
And that's just on Fridays?
Fridays or a holiday, or prior to a holiday, correct?
Otherwise, they're here till 3:45?
Yes, correct.
Or until school buses are gone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and then page 40. We talked this through quite a bit about the in-service committee, and after a lot of talking and discussing, kind of landed at leaving it exactly where the language is at. Administratively, we wanted to make sure we opened it up, that it's not just people who belong to the association, which is outlined here, but in discussion, it's a mutual agreement that anyone who would want to join and be part of this committee certainly could be. We didn't feel the language needed to change because when the meetings are called, there's a few people who have an interest in this, and I think Justin has some new ideas that we will take on this year under his leadership and then revisit it next year. So instead of usurping everything before we know exactly where we want to go, we're going to work through it this year and make some changes next year.
Okay.
And there was one other change we wanted to make. I believe it was on page 12, am I correct? Yes. Page 12, skipping back. Josh caught this for me. Did I call you Jason at one point?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry if I did. It just.
I'm so used to it, I don't even notice anymore.
Yikes. In looking under immigration law compliance, this is original language that has been here, I'm thinking, for many years. It says on the third line, Reform and Control Act of 1986, employees may be required to complete an I-9. That really should be changed to must be required because it is law and it is what we do. And so we need to clean that up. So that word should be changed from may to must.
Yep.
And with those changes brought forward to you, I would be looking for a motion to approve these changes as presented. I will be asking to bring this back in the future because this is becoming a much more living document. And I think instead of, once a year visit, my intention is that we're looking at it throughout the year as things come up.
Okay.
And I think my administrative team agree with me. Bobby Pulver and the association members also agree with that, so.
Okay.
Is
Very
there any
good.
other questions that I can answer for you on this?
Just know that the co-curricular schedule, payment schedule, wage schedule that's in there will be updated. It is not the current rate for starting September 1st. We have yet to update that in the book.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the updates to the co-curricular handbook for 2020-2021 as presented, with the exception of adding the correct pay ranges.
Okay, so this one
the
here is,
employee
this is the
handbook.
employee handbook.
Oh, I'm
so-
sorry, I read
Yep.
the wrong one.
You're jumping ahead, so
I
you're
was on the next
you're
one.
You're way ahead of us.
Employee
That's okay,
handbook.
Colette.
I said it wrong, I was reading the wrong one.
You want to restate the motion?
I will make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 Three Lakes School District Employee Handbook with the changes presented and the wages updated when we have them.
Okay. No motion on the table?
I'll second.
All right, motion by Colette, second by Josh. Any other questions? Comments? Terry?
When, we need to schedule some time to talk about what it is we're approving for the extracurricular activities, and the coaching fees. I mean, we haven't done that in a couple of years now,
Yeah,
and it's probably timely that we do it again.
something that we'll definitely review in the near future, I'm sure.
Yeah, Charlie's already worked on it extensively with me. He and I are on it. I'd like Justin's eyes on it as well. Instead of continually being like a across-the-board raise, it needs to be looked at by what the coaching area is. Are they equitable between the different sports and the time? So we want to really give that a good thorough look, and I'd say Charlie has a big chunk of that already in place.
Okay.
So it will be coming.
Very good. All right. Anybody else? All right, I will call it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None heard, motion carried 5-0. Very good, thank you for all the time that was put into that. And move on to consider approval of updates to the co-curricular handbook for 2021 through 2022.
And I'm going to call Charlie.
Okay.
Is those,
All right, well, we found one small change that we'd like to put in there, and it's to one of the awards that we give at the end of the year. Looking back at this award, it had been awarded to multiple athletes in the past, but the wording in the handbook kind of had it as only as a one athlete could receive this. So as our Coaches Association was giving out these awards, we would like to clean that language up to make sure that we are allowed to give it to more than one if needed. Now, when we're looking at these, we hold these awards very prestigiously, and we want to hold our athletes to very high standards. And we have got a number of really good coaches that are working with me with this to make sure that we're not just handing these out because we feel that we need to give it to someone. For instance, this year, we did not give a Tommy Ainsworth Award, and that's the award that is to the top male athlete. We thought we had some really good male athletes, but we didn't think we had somebody that was deserving of that award. So we didn't give that one out. On the other hand, we thought we had multiple athletes that were would be good candidates for the Clark Keel Award, which is that secondary, and that's for boys or girls. So we actually gave that out to 3 people this year. A couple of first-team All-State athletes, and a boy that was a multiple first-team All-Conference athlete. But we didn't feel that he was that Tommy Ainsworth level. So I'm just requesting or asking you guys to approve the change that we have for that Clark Keel that would allow us to give it to multiple athletes, and boy or girl.
So it'll read, this award is presented to an athlete or athletes, boy or girl, or both, who best exemplifies the ideals of desire, hustle, and willingness to work long and hard. This award may not be presented annually.
So we don't have to give it annually. So it was something that we had found, and we wanted to just make sure we cleared it up so that we were approached, or you were approached, we had language that would back us with that.
Got it. Okay. All right, and that's the only change?
That's the only change.
Okay, all right. Anyone prepared to make a motion on that change?
I'll make a motion to approve the update to the co-curricular handbook for 2021 and 2022 as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Terry. Any other questions, comments? All right, I will call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None heard, motion carried 5-0. Next, we have consider closure of the School Forest Advisory Committee.
would you like me to speak on that,
Sure.
or would you want to? Okay.
Go ahead.
Just briefly, we had, to recap, heard from our committee when they made the recommendation as to where they were at the current status back in the spring at the regular April meeting. And at that time, we thanked the committee for bringing the information to us, and I will use the word disbanded, we have not met since. But it was pointed out correctly, and in reviewing Robert's Rules of Orders, since this was a committee that was established by the Board of Education, the Board of Education needs to formally close this committee. Since it was opened by the board, it needs to be closed by the board. And so tonight, we would like to make that official, and the board will now make the final decision as where to go next.
Can I get clarification on what topics they were talking about?
They were
What-
talking about the use of the Highway A parcel. Specifically, we were looking at the school forest properties, but really it focused on the trap range on the Highway A parcel and what other purposes it could be used for, the educational, environmental education component, and doing trails and other kinds of activities at that point.
And they feel that they've accomplished their goals, or that we don't need the work on this and focus on it?
They've brought to us what they can do, what information they could gather, and it was pointed out by many members of the committee to the board and by citizens that now it's beyond the expertise of what our board or what our committee brought to us. They got that information to us. I gathered information. I've shared it with the board. The board is now at the point that they have the information and they're going to have to go forward with what we're doing next.
Okay, so we feel we have complete and accurate information? I'm asking because I've been approached by a group of citizens who are very concerned about the school forests.
I would say it's completely accurate what's
Yeah.
been shared.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And we feel good about where we're leaving it.
I think we feel good about what that group has done. They have done the task that they were assigned to do, and now that comes back to the hands of the board for the next steps. I don't know if I'm answering that as clearly as I should.
Because I'm not well versed at exactly what they did, I'm having trouble grasping it.
Yeah. We can review that with you as far as the presentation, that the recommendations that they came to with the board. So, so that's something that we can bring you up to speed on. Colette.
I would like to, thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. All right.
So,
Anyone?
I was gonna make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to officially disband the School Forest Advisory Committee.
Second.
Okay, motion by Stacy, second by Terry. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah,
Terry?
how are we gonna go forward now? We're
Okay.
gonna talk about this next month, or review it next month, or what, in your mind, what happens next?
Terry, what are we doing next, with our next step here? We've just had a review by the DNR in terms of it having potential wetlands.
Well, I have
We don't have a full report on it, but we're not sure that we're gonna get a full report.
Right.
Because they normally don't do a full report unless there's established wetlands.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I do have under Agenda 8K an update on the parcel, which gathers, or summarizes, I should say, the facts that we have shared. And then I think it is up for full discussion again at the board level for direction and where you want to go with the project.
Yeah, so what we got in front of us coming up here is an update. You know, we won't be making a decision at this point, but whatever questions or whatever that any one of our members here has, I guess if it's something that we need more research to be done on or whatever, we can ask Terry if she's willing to do some research on that particular question that we may have. But otherwise, I know you've done your work on it, and if you're prepared to move it forward to the board level, we'll take that step. So, any other questions? All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
I'll
Aye.
abstain.
Is
I'll
that,
abstain,
you're abstaining?
yeah. I need to understand it better.
Okay. All right. And so not a nay, just abstain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so motion passes 4-0. And next we go to preliminary review and approval of the 2021 through 2022 budget.
I am ready. Margot and I worked, she gets all the credit. We worked very closely together, talking it through and getting it brought together. I just think she does a beautiful job of breaking the numbers down and explaining what it really means. And I would just like to remind you that this is preliminary. We're just out of the last fiscal year. We still have things coming in, and we've tried to plan as closely as we can, but it is still estimates for this next coming year. Okay, Marble.
Okay, I gave you a sheet that at the top says assumptions made in preparing the 2021-22 preliminary budget. And I hope as I go through this, I can answer some of your questions as we go. If not, feel free to take a note and we'll answer as much as possible tonight. There's a lot of numbers and I don't want you all to entirely glaze over, so I won't read every number, but I will work through them and explain. I know there's a couple new board members, and I can tell you the first time I saw woofers, I totally glazed over. So when I say woofers, that means the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting requirements that we are required to follow. Okay, so at the top I gave you a quick reminder that there are many journal entries to be done for year end before the audit. And so the numbers that are in the actual column in the DPI format for 2020-21 are as of this moment in time, and those will change as I book accounts payable, accounts receivable. I'll be reviewing all of the accounts before audit for errors and omissions and things that are out of whack for our final audit on August 12th. We've already had a preliminary audit. So there will be changes to the actual numbers. And then on the revenue limit worksheet, and that's where I go to estimate our tax revenue that's going to be coming into the different funds. The third Friday count was estimated to be 503 FTE, full-time equivalent students. The equalized property values were estimated to increase 3% over last year's equalized value. These numbers will change for the final budget as well as the mill rate, because the mill rate is based on these numbers that I fill in on the revenue limit worksheet. The open enrollment current count was estimated at 87 students in, and that was as of June 26th. And the open enrolled out to other districts was estimated at 78 students out. So those numbers will also change because we always have last minute enrollees, last minute current students that choose to go to another district, that sort of thing. That all affects our revenue limit worksheet. Okay, and then the CARES grant, I thought bared for some explanations because you're going to see a very large number as I go through this report. And this is the COVID-related funding that districts have received across the state. We received a CARES 1 grant of $67,211, and that was all spent out in 2020-21. So that's in this year's books on both the revenue and the expense side.
Excuse me one second, Maru. Can you just grab me one of those extra copies there? Yeah, I got the rest of it.
Okay. Now, the CARES 2 funds came out, I want to say around March or so, and we were awarded $288,274 this past spring. We did purchase some curriculum, so we have spent $83,167 of that, but that leaves the remaining amount of about $205,000 to spend out in 2021-22. I have included that revenue in this year's budget, and corresponding expense amounts, to my best estimates, are also included to offset that money. Because these grants, they're not really money until you spend it. It's on a reimbursement basis. So we have to spend the money, we put in for reimbursement, then we book the revenue.
So even though it spans 3 years, you don't have to allocate it over 3 years?
No,
It's
you
just
don't.
anytime
That's a
within
local
the 3
choice.
years?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sometimes we think it's best to spend it before they change their mind. We already did receive a notification.
Government
Which
doesn't
they
do
can
that.
do. And Terry and I were noticing that they reduced the CARES 2 allocation by 0.25%. We got a notice about that. It's a quarter of a percent, which isn't significant. We only got $67,211, but the larger districts, there were districts that spent it out already, so that's a great situation, you know, that you could be in. So our plan is to spend CARES 2 out for sure. And then our initial allocation of CARES 3 funding is $649,006. That amount is also included in Source 690 in the reports. However, I have not budgeted all the expenses on the expense side. So the number that you see when we go into the reports, that is our revenue less expense, is positive. That does not allow for all the expenses that may be budgeted as we decide what to spend this money on that will go into the expense side. Does that make sense? So we're showing a pretty good positive now. But like I said, that money isn't ours until we spend it. And I could not, at this point in time, identify all the areas where we will spend that money. So that would probably put us at a negative net revenue less expense balance if we did not have that 600-some thousand in CARES funding. Okay, and then I just wanted to point out that the state of Wisconsin budget is a work in progress. At this point, we have no additional per pupil amount on the revenue worksheet for the upcoming year, and that hurts a bit. We've been given our title and idea grant allocations. Those usually can change a little bit, but I haven't seen them change significantly in the past. And then I just put in my little pointers because I know some of you might be experiencing WOFRS accounting for the first time. And I encourage you, if you don't have one, to take a copy of the annual report that I prepared for last year's annual meeting. Because in there, these numbers that are 100,000, 120,000, 140,000, and then on and on and on, have a meaning. And I have the reference to the WOFRS accounting codes in last year's annual report. And it would help you to review that. And also it would help you, there's a page that has the source codes on for the revenue side, and you can refer to those, and it's a much better, it gives you a much better handle on what is actually going into these accounts in plain English that a layperson can understand. Okay, so now I will move on to the report itself. And I had to put that picture on the front page because I have a 7-year-old grandson that could be him in that picture right there. Glasses and everything. Okay, so the first page is a treasurer's report on our current year's revenue and expense. And I'm talking about the one that says treasurer's report. And that basically is a very simple report that gives you our fund balance at the beginning of the year, our revenues and expenditures, our change in equity, and our fund balance at the end of the year. Now I want to remind you that fund balance is not cash. Fund 21 Special Projects Fund, well, starting at the top, you can see Fund 10. We had a $352,823 positive change in equity, so that if you take the $4,369,277, you add the $352,823, that gives you your ending fund balance of $4,722,100. So going down the list here, Fund 21, that's our Special Projects Fund. That is new for this year because according to the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, we had to come up with a new system of accounting for our activity accounts. That's not unique to our district. That is a mandate that we have to follow. So all of the Fund 60 accounts were basically wiped out, and the balance was transferred at the beginning of the year to the revenue account that you see there, that $118,734. We now have to account for that. It used to be accounted for as an in and an out. Money came in, it went into an asset account. Money went out, it offset the liability account. So it was a very simple process, but I believe they felt there wasn't enough transparency in these accounts, so we now have to account for them just like we would any other fund using the WOFRS codes. So we set up a new system, and the activities secretary gives me a report quarterly for each individual club per se, and they are still tracked that way. And then they're assigned our correct accounting codes, and I enter them into the books quarterly. So that's enough on that, I guess. On Fund 27, that's a special education fund, and you will see that the revenues equal the expense because the Fund 10 picks up any excess that Fund 27 can't support on its own through special education aid, and that is booked as an inter-fund transfer to Fund 27. The same thing happens on Fund 50. You're always going to see a zero fund balance at the beginning and end, if I have done it correctly. And there's also a transfer to Fund 50 every year to make up for any deficit. Okay, so you will see that our debt service is paid off. There's a zero fund balance. So, yay, your debt is paid off. You're debt-free right now. Okay, and then Fund 72, that's our scholarship accounting piece. And that was unavailable because I booked that quarterly as well. And I just got the numbers for the last quarter from Angie Schultz, who has done the scholarship accounting. I did get those entered in the books yesterday, but not in time. This report takes me some time to put together, so these numbers I had all put together as of about 5 or 6 days ago. So, okay, and then on the second page, Fund 80, that's our community service fund, and that's for revenue and expenses that are community related and benefit the community. So that one, we had a loss of $29,450. Our fund balance went down to $57,924. And because of where we are with that, when I started here, there was a pretty good sized chunk in that equity fund, a little more so than is probably recommended. So we did budget for losses these last couple of years. But now I believe we need to put on the revenue limit worksheet, we need to start making our revenue equal our expense more so. So I have put in the revenue limit worksheet, $197,000 tax levy, because our actual expenses this year are showing at about $196,000. So that's the plan there. Okay, so that gives you the total fund balances for all funds. And as it says in the report, this is unaudited. So once all the final journal entries are done for year end, those numbers will change somewhat.
Quick question on Fund 72,
Sure.
Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
In the low interest earnings environment that we're in, how is that affecting our fund balance in that,
In which fund?
in Fund 72? Because you said that's where all of our scholarships are.
Yeah, well,
held.
it's pretty awful. I mean, you know, the banks are at pretty much a 0% interest rate, I know on a personal level, and I have seen how much our money market deposit account for Fund 10 has dropped way down. So I haven't actually done a comparison yet to last year on Fund 72, but I'm expecting that it went down considerably.
Okay. Okay.
I can look up some actual numbers for you, Mike, if you're interested.
Yeah, I can follow up with you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, and then the next page says June 2021 bank reconciliation. And this is our actual cash in the bank as of June 30th, 2021. And that number should not change. So does anyone have any questions so far? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the clerk's report.
I'm good.
And that is It's basically a recap of some of the numbers that you already saw in summary on the previous report that shows the beginning, ending, fund balance, and that sort of thing. They're just all sort of, the revenues are all for Fund 10 because that's our largest amount of funds. I split out a little more so than the other funds by the type of source. So Fund 10 revenues, if you just want to skim over that, and 200, that includes our tax levy dollars. 300 is usually transitive aids, and that's usually CISA, things of that, entities such as that. Your intermediate sources are things like your Medicaid revenue, your state revenue, those are your state grants. Your 700s are your federal grants. 800 is other financing sources. That's a relatively small number in comparison. Your 900 is things like just any, I guess to put it in a nutshell, what doesn't fit in any of the other categories. And then I go down and list the revenues by the different funds to come up with the total revenue of the $13,042,169. And then on the expenditures side, these are by object codes, where in the 3-column format that you have in the report that's upcoming, that's all by area of expenditure, where this is by a category such as salaries, purchase services, your non-capital objects, which is supplies and small equipment and all that kind of good stuff, your insurance category, your operating transfers out. As I explained, that's to Fund 50, Fund 27, and then your other objects. So then I come up with a total number of expenditures, moving along, where it says total Fund 10 expenditures in blue there. And then I list the expenditures for the different funds, the total expenditures, and then come up with the revenues less expenditures. And then the next group of numbers is the net gain and loss by fund. And that was also on that first report that you saw that had the summary. So you have the beginning fund balance, all funds, your revenue less your expenditures, to come up with your ending fund balance, all funds of $4,862,449. Now, as I said, these numbers will change as we make year-end entries. So, moving on to the 3-column format, and this is the DPI recommended format. So just about every district in the state of Wisconsin will have this same format. I've always felt it's extremely difficult to understand and follow, so so you have my sympathy for having to look at this. Okay, so we've got our 1920 actual amounts, our unaudited 2021 amounts in the second column, and our proposed budget for 2021-22 in the third column. So I'm just going to let you kind of skim through that first page, and I'll just go over some of the bigger budgeted numbers for you. The beginning shows the fund balance to start off with, but then we go down to revenues and other financing sources, and you can see that first one is our taxes. That would include our tax levy, and then other much smaller categories. And your subtotal of your local sources is $8,370,487. And then you move down to your other school districts within Wisconsin, and that payment for services, that would include your open enrollment in amount. And then moving down the page, the intermediate sources, these are transitive aids. Your medical services reimbursement, that's Medicare. Funding that we get through the school via reports that I file every quarter. Then the state sources You'll see those are all 600 numbers. You get your categorical aid, which is for specific purposes, your general state aid, which will gradually disappear, your DPI special project grants, and which is only 1,000, and then your other state revenue, and that is some of the big numbers in there. And this is where, if you would refer to the pages in the annual report, that's where that would help you understand what goes into some of those numbers. And I just want to give you a real quick idea. So in the 690s, you're going to see things like computer and personal property aid. That's a relatively small amount. Sparsity aid, these were last year's numbers, was $202,000. Your per pupil aid from the revenue worksheet was $367,290, and high cost transportation aid was $190,000. I think I said the wrong number for per pupil aid. That was $367,290. So there are many items that go into that category. Under federal sources, and this is where your IDEA grants come in on the special ed page. Here it's the title grants, Title 1, 2, and 4 particularly, and other grants through state agencies is your 780 line item, and direct federal revenue, that would be national forest income, things of that nature. Okay, and then moving down to other revenues, a refund of a disbursement, that's when you get, that would be, we get these reimbursements that are called E-rate reimbursements for money that we spend on technology and phone systems. So that includes those in there. Okay, so unless you have questions, I'm going to keep on going here.
Okay.
Okay, so on the, you can see there's total revenue budgeted at the very top for $11,221,245. Then under the expenditures and financing uses, and you will see these are all 6-digit codes, and they're related to, as I said, an area of expense. So if you want to just skim through those numbers in that right-hand column, these are all instructional items. When the 110,000 through the 170,000 are all instructional areas, and so each category, undifferentiated curriculum, is generally your elementary expenses. 120,000 is generally your junior high and high school expenses, and I'm talking everything: wages, benefits, software, hardware, supplies, small equipment, pretty much everything for those different categories. Your vocational curriculum is things like Phi-Ed, the Fab Lab technology, things of that nature. Co-curricular activities, that's pretty self-explanatory, and then other special needs. Okay, and then under support sources, these are basically the non-instructional categories, like pupil services. You see instructional staff services, general administration. That would be where Terry and the board fall into. School building administration, that's where all the principals and the secretaries for the principals and all of that goes. Business administration, that would be the fiscal and finance area, where you have the business office, wages and benefits and audit costs and all that sort of thing. Central services, that would be things like internet support, things of that nature that are district-wide more so. Your insurance and judgments, that includes property, liability, crime, all that good stuff. And then moving down the page, that's, you see non-program transactions, the interfund transfers, I already explained, that goes to Fund 50 and Fund 27. Instructional service payments, that would be your open enrollment out. And that can be also to other districts or CISAs or someplace where you are purchasing instructional services. So that brings total expenditures of $10,741,117. And then moving down, Fund 21, this is, as I said, the former activity accounts. So I've budgeted $52,000 in the $100,000 function and $400 in the support services. So $52,400 total. This one is a very difficult one to estimate because it all depends how much money the clubs fundraise and that sort of thing throughout the year, or what they do, what they give. Okay, then moving down to Special Education Fund. The transfers in, that's the transfer in from Fund 10. And then it's pretty much zeros till you get down to intermediate sources. 580 is your Medicaid again. And then your categorical aid for special ed purposes is under the 610 from the state. And then we've got general state aid and some smaller miscellaneous other revenue. And then we have our federal grants under the 730 code. And that gives us a total of $1,708,534 on the revenue and expense side to zero out. Okay, then moving down, there's the curriculum accounts of $140,000 and $150,000 for special ed only. And then the support services, everything relating to special ed is in these particular classifications, including your special ed director, your paraprofessionals, your special education teachers, a portion of my salary is in that area. And then if you go to the bottom, that total equals the revenue on the top. Debt service is easy because it's all zeros on the right. We have no capital projects at the moment, but if we do, it will have to go into a 40 fund. And then the food service fund, we budgeted $319,613, and the expenses will be the same. And that includes all of your cooks and wages and things of that nature, and all your expenditures on food, administration, and everything else. And then the last one is the community service fund with a total revenue budget, and as I said, that comes off the revenue limit worksheet, $197,000, and total expenses of $196,169. That includes all of our public relation expenses and other allocations that we make to community services. And then the very last page is the governmental funds budgeted summary of revenues and expenditures. And you'll see Fund 72 is not on here because it's not considered a governmental fund, it's considered a trust fund. So you can see the total revenue for all the funds down in bold, the total expenditures, and the current net gain loss. And the estimated mill rate at the bottom of the page per thousand of equalized valuation is 5.74. Last year it was 5.99. The estimated change at this time is 0.25.
Negative.
Yes. Yeah, it would go down. we'll see.
Right.
Because if we allocate a lot to spending that CARES money, could make a difference, and we'll see what the state does.
Typically one of the lowest ones in the state.
Mhm.
So I know I kind of went pretty fast and furious, but. Did you have a question, Mike?
Yeah, and back on food service, 150.
Okay.
Last year, we had a program in which our food service was subsidized higher for our students at a higher rate, correct?
Yes. During the COVID period, we had basically all free meals during that.
Free meals.
Free meals and we
During
were
that-
reimbursed at a higher rate.
Yes.
For 21-22, we will be doing the same thing, serving free meals. And the reimbursement rate is going to be at the highest rate, which is like $4.30
Okay,
for the upcoming school year.
okay.
So we'll still offer the seamless option where we would offer pickup for anybody in the community if they pre-register, because we registered as an open site.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we can serve children 18 years and under at a meal pickup site here in Sugar Camp on Mondays and Wednesdays like we did last year, and for our virtual students.
Okay. All right.
Does that answer your question, why there was that increase?
Well, yeah, and then basically what do we show here as an expense? You said we were subsidized at the highest rate. Is it pretty close to that amount that we're getting subsidized at?
You mean to, like, where it would bring us to a break even?
Right,
Is
yeah,
that
how
what you-
close is it to break even?
Well, from what I've seen in your past history, you had about I want to say a $32,000 loss.
Yep.
Last year, if I remember correctly.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So for this year, I think I still have to accrue well, we got our June money in June, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So this year should be pretty close.
And so
And
the
I'm trying to remember
subsidizing,
what the interfund transfer was, Mike, because I could tell you that in a minute here, but I don't have that here in front of me right now.
okay. So the higher subsidy that we're gonna get, that's for the full 21 through 22 school year?
Correct.
Okay.
It expires on June 30th, 2022.
Okay.
Some of our expenditures were a little higher this last year with the COVID because they were pre-packaging
Sure.
a lot of meals, and so we have the plastic and the plastic forks and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, and the extra sanitation that
Yeah.
raised costs a little bit.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Carrie's been doing webinars on all of this. Food service is a big job. Lots of paperwork,
There's a lot to know.
lots to learn, and then you learn it and they change it, right, Carrie? So,
Okay, we're good. Okay, you were gonna hit the debt service then?
okay, yeah, the debt service, this is pretty much exactly what I gave you last year. Because you're down to zero, so there really was nothing new to prepare for the current year. It's just all zeros. You can see that the last payment was made, it was actually made on June 1st. Your last principal payment of $315,031.50 in interest, so.
And this
That's
covers
that.
both roof projects at Three Lakes and Sugar Camp.
Yeah, it's everything.
Okay,
Mhm.
good.
Well, you know, and I don't know, is it everything, or was Sugar Camp paid for out of your fund balance?
Well, it's everything that we had a debt for.
This is, yeah, I thought it was just the Three Lakes roof.
Okay.
But we have no debt on anything else.
Okay.
But I thought I saw somewhere in the files that the Sugar Camp roof was just paid for out.
It was
outright.
Yeah, I'd have to look back
I
at my notes.
could be wrong. but
Yeah,
that's-
okay. All right,
I think I might
no,
be-
that is good,
So,
but when you need it, you need it. So,
I have a general question. Who writes our grants for us? Do you write those?
Well, some of them, yes, and Terry wrote some of them.
Aren't we sort of put upon, being a small district, that a grant comes out, and if you live down in Shorewood or someplace, they've got somebody on staff that writes grants, and that's all they do for a living?
That is correct.
And we have to piggyback our spare time
Yep.
with the two of you.
It's not spare time because it's
Well,
big
I know,
money
I
that
know, I know,
we
I
gotta
know,
get.
that was the wrong word.
No, but
Yeah.
you're right, yes.
But you have to take the time
Yeah.
to write the grants, so these stupid grants don't come automatically. And that's one of the things that WSB is trying to see if they can get changed, because that's just, there ought to be money given to us so we could hire somebody to do that. And/or they ought to not require us to, go through all this grant writing to get $1,200. It's sort of bizarre.
okay,
Well, you do a good job.
Thank you.
very thorough, thank you, Marvel. So we need approval on our preliminary budget.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Terry, second by Stacy. Questions? Comments? My comment is thank you for everything that you put into the budget. I know you take it dear to heart and you put a lot of time and effort into it, so thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that you appreciate it.
Yeah. Very good. We'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none heard. Motion passes 5-0. Very good. Back to work, right? Wait for more updates and such. All right.
I did bring a copy, I don't know if you had one, Josh, of last year's annual report, so you can maybe
I do not. I would
look at
appreciate
one,
one.
and
Yeah.
if anybody else doesn't have one and would like one, I brought. We had lots of extras after last year's meeting, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we'll move to the spring sports report. Charlie?
All right, well, it doesn't seem like spring much anymore. I think in your packets, you got multiple pages with this, and I think I'll just start with baseball, since that's the top of my list. Maybe get scanned that way. So the first page is our participation numbers. They were pretty good. We had, looks like 20 started the year and 18 finished the year. 4 of those athletes were from Phelps. Baseball was pretty successful this year. They made one of their deepest runs in quite some time. They were conference champs, they were regional champs, and then they did lose in the sectional semifinal to Edgar, who was, I believe, ranked at second in the state. Edgar did not win their next game. But our baseball team was quite successful. We had, I think we had 3 first-team all-conference players and 3 first-team, 1 second-team, and 1 honorable mention. We did also have the Conference Player of the Year, which is happens quite often here in the spring. So their numbers are pretty strong. Like I said, they did have 4 from Phelps. They did graduate a big group of seniors. However, I believe that big group of seniors will be replaced by a number of freshmen coming in this year. So baseball numbers are going to be quite strong again next year. probably in that 20 to 22 range. We are able to schedule some JV games for them. We usually go out of our conference, other than maybe like Crandon might have a JV game, but we'll play like Northland Pines or Wittenberg Burnwood or Rhinelander team to get our JV athletes some time in the field, so they're just not sitting there twiddling their thumbs in the dugout. So, any questions on baseball?
No?
All right.
Very good.
Moving on.
One question.
Yes.
Who's the kid that broke his leg?
Oh, Evan Ladua.
Evan, how's he doing?
Evan ended up having surgery.
He did.
I see him in the weight room the other day, so he's recovering while he's trying to get rehabbed so that he can play football in Oshkosh this year. So yeah, it was kind of, I don't know if it was the last game of the year.
No, it was.
Well, it might have been the last conference.
Last conference game,
I
yeah.
think it might have been the last
Yep.
conference game.
Yep.
He slid into second base and caught a
Yep.
cleat and rolled
Yep.
himself under. So it was unfortunate for him being a senior. However, he still made honorable mention all conference this year. So as a senior, so I had a pretty strong year.
Yeah.
So, and Evan came from us as a sophomore from Crandon and finished up his high school year here, or high school.
I did see him yesterday at the fitness center.
Yep.
He does come in regular,
Yep.
and yesterday is the first day that I saw him walking on the foot.
Yeah.
It's still in the brace.
Is he still in the brace?
But
Yeah.
he's walking on it now.
Good.
so.
Unfortunately, he was in a wheelchair for graduation, which was
Yep.
the next day, so. All right, moving on to golf. Golf actually had the most participants since I've been here. Normally, we were 4 to 6, 3 to 5, somewhere there. This year, we had 10. We were able to find an assistant golf coach and get them a number of meets. Dave Ditzler stepped up and did that for us, and he did an awesome job. Coach Brown did an awesome job. They did finish third in the conference, which a lot of these kids are maybe middle to upperclassmen, but there was no, so they're, consider them like lower to underclassmen because there was no golf last year. All these athletes unfortunately didn't get to play their sports, so even a senior was playing probably at a junior level. But you can't replace those games and that experience. So they're a young team. They finished third in the conference. They did send two golfers on the sectionals, which was I'd say a big surprise to me. Watching some of these kids practice and at the course, but it was great for them. And actually, they were very close to sending the team to sectionals.
Wow.
So, which was a big surprise to Coach Brown. But they've come a long ways. I see a number of these kids out on the golf course once in a while, working on their craft. So the golf team was pretty decent this year. So it was good to see. Moving on next, I've got girls soccer. So girls soccer had, I shouldn't say strong numbers, they had enough. They were, what do we have, 13, okay? They had 13 kids, one senior, so they're a fairly young team. And again, this is the first time that we fielded a team in 3 years.
Yeah.
So last year was a COVID year, the year before we started, and with injuries and things, we were down to 7, and then they really never even got to play a game. So a lot of these kids were very excited to get back out on the field. They finished 2-2 in the conference. Bayfield beat us twice. We ended up beating Phillips twice. And then, as I was kind of preparing, Kelly Griesbach, who was our first year, we had 2 first-year coaches, Kelly Griesbach and Katie Bachnick. And I said, hey, you guys might actually get a home game for regionals, in which they did, because they thought, oh, we're not very good, and they were young, but they got a home game. And then we had bad storms, so thank you to Rhinelander and the Hodag Dome. I thought of it, and we moved our game over there. Kids loved it. It was a great experience for them. And Spooner was sure happy not to drive 3.5 hours the next day to come back here. So they ended up losing with a late goal in the second half. so their season ended there. But, you know, the young team, kids are getting an opportunity again, but the numbers are not strong, but we're able to field the team. Any questions soccer-wise?
Yeah.
All right, moving on, softball. Okay, softball again, very young team, 5, 11, 12 kids, only one senior again. And you probably see there's a little bit of a theme there. Not many seniors came out for, I shouldn't say, there were seniors that were anticipated in playing sports that didn't come out because the season went so deep into the summer, and they're kind of checking out, getting ready for college, getting jobs, trying to pay for school, and that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, it wasn't a great year again for participation by our seniors, but move back to softball here. Softball, I believe, finished 3rd or 4th in the conference, very young team again. One senior, a number of juniors. However, those juniors didn't play, so you can kind of put them back at that sophomore level. They ended up finishing their season at Crivets with a 5-4 loss. They were going into the last inning with a lead and weren't able to quite finish the game the way they had hoped. So it was a good year. I think there's a lot of good growth there. Coach Lerbetsky is thinking that these kids are going to play. There's opportunities to play this summer. A lot of these kids are taking advantage of that. And hopefully they'll have a little more experienced team next year and a few more numbers. So with the co-op with Phelps, we did get one athlete to participate come down in softball. So moving on to, or any questions about softball?
Nope.
Okay. Josh was there for quite a few games. Track and field, lump boys and girls into one here. Track and field numbers for the boys were 12, actually no, 14. They did have 2 participants from Phelps come down and join the boys team. The girls side, 6, 8, 11. Started with 11 and they ended with 10. No Phelps participation there. They were conference champs again. I believe that's 4 in a row, just like baseball here. They did have a pretty successful year. The boys were regional champs for that. The girls were not. Moving on to the state tournament, I believe we sent, I think it was 8 athletes competing down at state. All but one came home with a medal, and including, we do have another state champion in the shot put. Emily Fink was a state champion shot putter this year. Didn't get to enjoy it much. We didn't get to throw her a parade because she was on to West Point the next day. So that's one girl that when they moved the state tournament from, which is a traditionally Friday, Saturday, to an all-day Thursday event for Division III, it was like she was like rekindled. She was really disappointed at something that she had worked all her high school career. She knew she was right on the cusp of getting that state championship and didn't think that she was going to be able to compete because of her obligation at West Point. And when I told her it got moved, she was one of the first people, her dad was one of the first people I texted, and it was like this huge weight was off her shoulders and smiles, and it was really good to see. So track had a pretty good successful year again there. Andy does a really nice job with the kids bringing out the best and finding kind of their niche where they're at. So any questions track and field wise? All right, and then I also included this year was trap. Okay, I know we get into a lot of meetings and people want to know how many people are competing in shooting trap for us. And if we were to look at it, we had 34 or 38 signed up, 34 trap shooters this year, which makes it pretty much one of our largest activities that we have. And with with that club that it is, they're able to do that after their normal sport, or if they're not playing a sport, Al's out there at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And if they are in a sport, they shoot after practice, and he's out there till 7, 8 o'clock sometimes. So he does a nice job. He and Jeff McDonald, I believe, are the two coaches with that. And they push a lot of kids through at the range there. And we've got a lot of really good young shooters coming up. So our junior high team, I believe, I think he said it was undefeated. High school, or maybe it was the JV team that was undefeated. So we have some really good young shooters coming up, and hopefully the varsity level there.
Is that boys and girls?
Boys and girls, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Boys and girls, yeah. Yep. So it's it's something that a lot of our students are taking advantage of. So it's gaining a lot of traction, and it's something that, not everybody's a ball player, not everybody's a track athlete, not everybody's a runner. Some people with our Northwoods tradition here are hunting, fishing type families, and this is a way for them to get involved.
Charlie, when is the season? It runs from when to when?
For trap?
For trap, yeah.
He usually gets started end of March, early April. I know they've shot in the snow, but we have snow quite some, and they're done right about the middle of May. So it's about an 8-week season that they're participating in. Maybe a few more, maybe a 10-week, but it's not super long. They shoot once a week.
Once a week during that 8 weeks?
Yes. Yep.
Unless there's I think if I remember from one of the
Well,
previous meeting, unless they have like a weekend
They do have weekend shoots. They shoot on weekends as well.
practices once a
Right.
week though.
The reason why it's not an every night thing is because a lot of these kids are our athletes as well, and it would get to be very burdening on them if 2 to 3 nights that they would have to go shoot. So he does shoot 2 different nights though, I think. One night is high school and one night is the junior high. Otherwise, he just would have 2 meetings.
I'm just trying to get a firm feeling for the length of the season over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And when they would actually be shooting. The
Yep.
point is, they're not shooting all the time.
No.
Okay.
For informational purposes, Al we worked up a page on the website now. So there's a summary of the trap club on our activities section on the website in the high school area. And it goes through all of that, like the timing and the periods and how much everything's on there. So if you want some information, it's there too.
So kind of a culmination, Three Lakes Athletics had one of their best years ever.
Yeah.
They did.
We really had, we never had to cancel because of us. We never had an athlete that, well, I should say at the high school level, we did have to shut our middle school football program down for a while, but our high school teams really, really did well. And it just shows a lot to their dedication, their hard work, our coaches' hard work.
Yeah.
And we're also very blessed with some pretty good talent coming through right now. So.
I read the paper today, and in there was an article about we have joined with Phelps in all sports, or nearly all sports.
Middle school.
And we're talking younger kids.
Middle school.
But I guess I was surprised by reading that and not knowing about that sort of ahead of time. I mean, we have to vote on whether we're going to team with Phelps.
As far as co-op levels, yeah.
The co-op levels, so this, you can do whatever you want if it's not a co-op level sport?
Well, at the middle school level, it's not really a co-op level. That was something that Terry and myself and Jean and Delmise and Jason Bertelli, and part of the reason for that is they weren't able to pretty much provide any more than middle school programs. And if we wanted to have these kids that come contribute to us at our co-op teams,
You have to grow them, yeah.
they have to have,
Right.
otherwise they'll come here and either not have the skills, not enjoy the game, and now they're not going out for the sport, and we're kind of just pulling a dead weight.
Okay.
So that was kind of the thinking behind that.
Well, I just was surprised to read that.
So,
Very good.
And I think we need to take a moment and recognize Charlie too. Maybe we didn't have as many cancellations or any like others, but the season went how many weeks beyond a normal season?
3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, the scheduling nightmares which he pulled together. He put in extensive hours and did a fabulous job, Charlie, and I just want to publicly recognize your efforts because you were as instrumental as the kids, the parents, and the coaches in making it come together this year. So thank you for not turning gray on us and continuing to serve us.
Not a problem. It's an enjoyment. I think it's a passion. I want these kids to, I guess, use the Army term, be the best they can be. They only have this time to be a high school athlete, and I want to provide them the best opportunities so they don't look back and have regrets. 'Cause
Thank
that's
you.
something that you can't change. So,
Yeah,
all right.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all the athletes, coaches, and it was a great athletic year, really. Yeah. Very good. Now moving to the Highway A parcel update.
All right, I did send a memo to you and outlined, I tried to recapture not only the last month or so, but what happened since the spring. So I think it's probably best if I just read it, Mike, with
Sure.
your
Yep,
permission.
that'd be good.
Because I just wanted to be very factual in what we've gathered so everyone here can hear what I've shared. DNR Wetlands Delineator Steve LaValle inspected the highway parcel on June 9th, 2021. At that time, he spent several hours investigating the property. He has shared 3 maps. The first map shows 9 locations where soil pits were dug. Only 2 were shown to be in wetlands, and those are designated in a green highlighted area. He stated that none of the grading or berms are in wetlands. He also said that the soil is very rocky. The blue border indicates the disturbed area, which in parentheses is the planned parking lot. Mr. LaValle states that no wetlands are impacted at this point. If work is planned in the green area, then we are to notify him. That is the wetlands area, the swamp off to the east. The other 2 pictures are of the social profiles. He stated that typically when it is determined that a site does not have wetland impacts, he does not write a formal report. He is backlogged with permits. Should Matt Jacobson, his supervisor, request the report, then he will work on it, but we will receive it much later. A brief recap. Mr. LaValle was assigned to assess the site as a follow-up to the visit of Matt Jacobson from the DNR, who inspected the property on April 30th, 2021. Mr. Jacobson had noted that there appeared to be possible wetland impact areas on the property. He stated that in order to develop the lot for a trap range, a wetland delineation would be required to proceed. The delineation will provide precise boundaries of existing wetlands. This information will determine where to place the parking lot and other features to minimize or eliminate the amount of fill needed. If wetland fill is required, permits will have to be obtained prior to the work. This is in addition to a construction site permit should the total ground disturbance, including the area already graded, exceed an acre. Provided information to contact Stephen LaValle from the Wisconsin DNR to follow up regarding the existing earthwork. In March, the Board of Education heard from the School Forest Advisory Committee reviewing the plans thus far on the Highway A parcel. The committee was tasked with bringing a plan for uses of the property to the Board of Education. The presentation was received with sincere appreciation. The matter is now under district consideration and this committee has been discontinued. WASB attorney Scott Mikish presented the legal opinion of a trap range on school property and student expulsion statute for firearms on school property. Attorney Scott Mikish consulted with Gretchen Marshall from the UW Stevens Point and Leaf School Forest Coordinator. She verified that a trap range can be included on a school forest property. Should the district choose to separate the property out of the school forest property, the school forest management plan can be amended to reflect this change. This project is applicable under the criteria of school forests to outdoor skills. The curriculum can link the Trap Club with other curricular areas such as building and construction and sciences. Additional information that was shared, bullet point 1, the school board does have the authority to build a trap range on school property. And point 2, the district has liability insurance coverage that applies to this property. So my attempt and effort here was to summarize what has been discussed the past few months and bring it to a close, that it is now back at the point that this is the reported information that we have. You have it, it's been shared in the public. I think that your next steps will be having a broader discussion and a plan where we're going forward as a board with that piece of property. Mike, do you want to follow up on that or ask me other questions, or?
No, I guess for those that were in attendance at that spring meeting, when we had the information from Scott Micah, she was very thorough on what the options were for the school in terms of the legalities of having firearms on school property. So if anybody has any questions on that, I think we have bullet points and such like that from that meeting and such. So I know that was an area of deep concern there. And then I guess we've looked at is the school forest compatible, I guess, so to speak, with a so-called trap range on that same property. We've gotten, I guess I shouldn't say opinion, but we've gotten information on that saying that yes, that is compatible, but we also have the option of splitting it out if we so desire. The trap range is getting a little bit of, it's kind of like the lightning rod for this property. It's getting the attention, but it's not the only thing that we're doing with the property. And I know, Stacy, you've been attending a lot of the previous meetings when the committee was there. So there's a lot of, I think, excitement and energy in other areas as well. And I think that will be an easy thing to move forward, and I guess it'll be up to the board basically to decide on what we do with the trap range and that property. And at this point here, I think I would assume everyone's probably continued to doing their own research, and if there's any broad-based questions that they would have for Terry that we need to explore, I guess, does anybody have anything that they would like to continue to research?
I like the fact that we're using it for more than just the trap shooting, because you're right, that does get the blood flowing for some people.
Yeah.
And it's about 1.5 miles from my house, so I do know there is some wetland, but there's a lot of rocks and just regular land, and I think it's a good use.
I think, if I remember correctly from one of Al's presentations, I think it was either 7 or 10 acres, so it really only take up a quarter or less of the property that was being used, if I remember correctly.
So, I mean, he's come up with, I guess, an idea, I guess, on I think there was 2 different options, I think, in terms of how to position it, so.
2 that he presented, yeah.
So.
Stephen did comment verbally to me, I don't have it in writing, but when he came the second time, I met him at the property, and he said that the plans that he had from the drawings, both positions would be acceptable, because, just to show, this is the area that's considered wetlands off to the side, and the trap ranges would be in this area delineated here, that it would not be impacted. I also have talked to Mike Walden, who is our liability provider, And my intention before next month's meeting is he has volunteered to come up with his boss, whatever they're called in the insurance world, and they're also going to look at the property just so we make sure that all liability and feasibility questions would be answered should you have any.
Okay.
I just felt that even though we were told we had coverage, I'd like more in-depth of an explanation as to what that means.
Mhm.
Before we had this location, or where were we actually?
And we still are there's a range in
Stella.
Hiles.
Hiles.
Yeah.
Hiles.
Yeah.
It's a hall.
Can I comment on swapping land, because that wasn't...
Sure, if you got some information on it.
Well, I just want to say, I want to respond to Ann's original comment. There's been no discussion about trading land, or I think it must be coming from that group's board.
What?
Because there has been no, you know what there's been here.
Yeah, it was, well, that's it. I hadn't heard anything, and
Yeah.
then they weren't real clear, except when they used the word a possible trade. Then I thought, well, that leaves it kind of open. Are they trying to trade that parcel on A for another Board of Land Commissioners parcel? It was very unclear what they were talking about, and I wish they had said, you know, our association board or something, but it left it kind of fuzzy in my mind. Because I knew that there hadn't been any discussion at board meetings about it.
They are a very active group, and they want to see the kids have a place, a local place. I think they're very willing to help. I've talked with Chris Blickartz, about when they were looking for property, that he let me know they're looking for property as other alternative options should this not come to be. That is not, in fact, a fact. That was just information being shared, and I feel I can share that now because I had Charlie there present with me, and he said they were openly talking that they want to make sure that they're active in their role for promoting their interest in the Northwoods activities and such, but we don't have any land to swap. As a reminder, if we did want to do something as far as departing this land, right of first refusal goes back to the board commission, and it would have to be sold back to them
Right.
because we bought it for a very specific purpose. So I hope that clarifies that question.
It was unclear what it was, and that's why I thought I would ask, because I thought,
Yep.
you will know.
Okay. Very good.
So, besides my liability follow-up, which I talked with him just recently, is there anything else that any board member would like me to further check out before next month's meeting?
I have nothing.
No?
Colette, if you would like to schedule some time in the next, not next week, but, in 2 weeks or so, I can actually sit down with you if you'd like to go through the journey of the notes of the meetings and share with you what has been done and discussed, and then,
I would like that
If-
because I have concerned citizens coming in
Sure.
and talking to me all the time.
let's just schedule a time, and then you can see all of that information. I can give you copies for your reference, and you can take that under consideration.
Yep, have
Okay.
real facts rather than,
Just email me and we'll get it
Okay.
set up, okay?
All right, very good.
We've been working on this a long time.
I know, I've been watching it in the
We've got
background.
about 10 years invested in this.
The big question is,
Feels that
why do
way.
we have to have our own when we have something else nearby? That's the big one I get.
Another nearby is a relative word, I think.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on that update? All right, very good. Thank you for that, Terry. All right.
Yeah, Josh, and it's not exactly a straight road.
Right.
Neither is A.
Compared to that road?
Yeah. A's pretty straight.
All right, very good. Moving on to the personnel report.
Okay, let me find that. All right, under our personnel report, we have the hirings to report of Jill Norship. She is being hired as a full-time assistant cook. Randy Walker has retired, so Jill has been working in the kitchen, and she is stepping into that position. Carrie Volk is, as you know, this new special education director. And resignation, Katie Pitlick has resigned from the part-time assistant cook in Sugar Camp. She, such a nice person, has taken a job in a different office. Wanted to let me know. So we have already posted for kitchen hiring. We have applicants, and Carrie and I plan on beginning to schedule interviews on Monday.
Okay.
So we will feed our kids, don't worry.
Very good. All right, and moving on to district-related positive happenings.
I have one.
Go for it.
We are going to have our third induction ceremony of our Hall of Fame on Friday. So if anybody is looking for something to do Friday evening, it's at the Ryder Center. It is at 5 o'clock. Or 5:30.
5:30.
5:30. And we've got a room. Tickets are $35. We've got a meal catered in from Lynn's Catering of Rhinelander. And looking forward to having a good time there when getting this next class of inductees in. So the inductees are Tom Ainsworth, who passed many, many years ago, but just digging up a little history. Coach Ken Hebner, Nancy Kortnoff, Steve Rapley, and is it 99 or 98?
98.
98.
They goofed up. So, if you're looking for something to do on Friday evening, we've got seats available.
Yeah, all right. Good, good. Is Steve Rapley, is he around the area?
Steve is an Iron Mountain.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't seen him since high school, so.
Comes on a couple times a year.
Does he? Huh, interesting. Yeah. And who's on the committee, board, or whatever for putting this all together, Charlie?
Basically, it's our Coaches Association and myself.
Okay.
Something that we do kind of as a fundraiser. I don't know if you've been in the gym, well, many of you probably haven't been in the gym, but the new Blue Jay logos on the mats, we got those designed and paid for those. And then we're looking at the area where the soda machines were. We've got plans for a mural there and the plaques and a couple of trophy cases on the side of that, kind of being the Athletic Hall of Fame.
Okay.
So.
Great.
And that's stuff that's all paid for by our association through this fundraising.
Okay. Yeah, definitely great positive for the community, and thank you and the rest of the Coaches Association for putting that on.
A little bit of a history lesson for a lot of us.
I know.
Picking up some stuff.
Personally, one of the people that are going to be inducted in, and every time he comes in, he talks about it, so, yeah.
That's great.
It's going to mean a lot to him,
Yep.
so.
Butch had his hand raised.
What's that?
I think Butch had a
Butch.
question.
Well, everybody likes hearing positive, good things, so I want to share that when our family had the opportunity to move here as a district ranger for the Forest Service, we had the opportunity to live in locations from Florence over to St. Germain, any place in between. And Gene and I did some research and we looked at the school districts. And this school district was the reason we decided to move to Three Lakes. And that was quite a while ago. So I want to echo that with more recent information. We have hosted and co-hosted foreign kids from foreign countries, Japan, Germany, and Turkey. And we hear from Haruka Zawa, who was with us for a school year as a junior here, that she's now a registered nurse in Tokyo, but she says that her year here in Three Lakes at this school was the best year of her life.
Oh,
So I want to pass that on as a positive thing.
Yeah.
The school district needs to feel good.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good.
I just wanted to thank all the publicity we've been getting and the different things on our sports teams. Really puts us on the map for Three Lakes, which is nice. the police escorts when we win. Very nice.
All right, excellent.
I'll just throw another one out there. I just want to say that having Justin and Carrie to work with this past few weeks has been so energizing and inspiring, and I see great things, not that wonderful things aren't happening already, but I just feel a new sense of where we can go and grow as a district, and just so very pleased to have their professional background and desire and energy to be working with, and they're also kind of funny people. This guy has some good stories, and he keeps me on my toes, so it's going to be a very good partnership. So thank you very much, Justin and Carrie as well.
Excellent. Very good. Better and better, right? Keep improving. All right, moving on to correspondence.
Just the one thing I want to mention for sure is that on the 28th of September, the day before our annual meeting, is going to be the regional meeting, and it will be held at Norwood Pines again, I believe. I will send by email information out to you. Actually, when I say I, it may be myself or Carrie. We will work on that together and get you registered, because a lot of times she's really good about it. I say, Carrie, I need, and then she follows through. Also, the information will be coming out on the conference, which will be the third week of January. We are on that. We want to try to get the rooms reserved for attendance on site, if at all possible. So we have it in our calendar, so as soon as it opens, we can be registering.
And I can go on that.
Wonderful.
19th to be there.
Wonderful. So, and that is for Stacy and I, we were there before, but Josh, I don't know if you're aware, but it's usually a Tuesday through was it Friday, Mike?
All the way,
Friday
well, half-day
morning.
Friday.
Half-day Friday,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, usually the governor speaks
Yeah.
at 11 o'clock Friday morning or 10:30, and it's kind of so to hold people over, so for that extra half day, because you want to hear what the governor says. And Tony's interesting because he was DPI, so.
So more information will be coming on that. I realize with your work schedules and all that, it's not just an automatic my work schedule works out well for it, but I realize it's not quite as easy for some others. So we will get that information as it's coming out. I went, the one time I went with this board, it was probably one of the best professional developing personal experiences that I had, because not only do you get to work together as a board, but networking with others, and it really makes you realize what the right people and energy can do regardless of the size of a district. You don't have to be a big guy to get a lot of big things accomplished. So I hope that you can make it work, and we look forward to that. And that's what I had.
Been every opportunity I get, and I don't think I've missed one yet, it's well worth the time. So it's a tremendous learning experience. So, and a chance to network with other school district members and such like that. So yeah, it's a lot of positives.
You get a lot of good information there.
Yeah. All right, very good. Well, that concludes our meeting. I will seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Terry, second by Colette. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of the evening.